Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's time for the Next Homie Focus Group. I'm Chuck Vosberg, and this is my lovely wife, Pat. We're your friends in Florida, and we meet here every other Tuesday. And today we've got a great speaker. We actually met Caitlyn in what was that, Charlotte?
I think so.
At one of the regional conferences. Had a great chat after the meeting, and we're really lucky to have her here today. And she's going to talk with us a little bit about Atomic Habits, which I know is a lot of your very favorite books, and some ways that she's implemented it and some ideas for us. So, Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you for having me. Is it okay for me to share my screen here?
Yes, as a matter of fact, let me give you
Okay,
that ability real quick.
awesome. While we're taking care of that, my name is Caitlyn Hall. I am in Richmond, Virginia. I am a co-owner of Next Home Advantage with my mom. So I don't know how many of you guys are brokers or managers and how many are agents. I think we have a mix on the call today. And when I met Pat and Chuck, we were talking about Atomic Habits, and I had mentioned that we had done a sales meeting with that kind of as the theme. And we actually carried it on with a book club where we met every single week. We read a chapter together. We would listen to it on audiobook. And it really transformed the way that we coach our agents. We have 40 in our office. So we get to see like firsthand realtor habits and tendencies. So I'm very familiar with what it's like. I've been an agent myself for a long time. So we've been able to watch that and then really improve the way that we talk to each other and also how we talk to ourselves. And we've learned to be a lot kinder to each other, I think, through implementing Atomic Habits. So I'm going to get my screen shared here. Give me just 1 second, and we will get into that and how to do all of that. And shockingly, for being 26 years old, I'm really bad with technology sometimes. So forgive me
That's
while
fine.
I
Just take
figure
your
that out.
time. We are very informal here.
Okay, let me get the correct spot.
Perfect.
All right, everyone sees the back end of my Canva.
Yes.
I'll get it to presentation style. All right, cool. So we're obviously going to talk about Atomic Habits today. I have a couple other things that are related to habits in general that aren't necessarily directly from the book as well. So we'll talk about that as well. So a couple disclaimers. Obviously, I did not write this book, so I'm just sharing what I've learned from it and what we did from the experiences that I shared with you guys. And then the other disclaimer that I would give is obviously, whatever habits you want to implement are the ones that you should focus on and worry about. Everybody has a unique personality, preference, purpose, I think, while they're here on Earth, obviously. And so, what I want to accomplish and what I want to do might not be in alignment with what you want to accomplish and what you want to do. And so, your habits should be very tailored to that. I think sometimes we can get a little bit bogged down with the idea of you have to make your bed to be successful, which I make my bed every morning. But I don't care whether you do or whether you don't. As long as your habits are in alignment with what you're trying to achieve, I think that's the thing that is the most important to recognize. And also, I think it's important to factor in your unique personality and what your tendencies are and really tailor your system around that because we're all different and that is okay. And I think that's actually a really good thing. So next page. So it's that time of year where people start thinking about what they want to accomplish next year. I think it's the only time that realtors are early. We do our New Year's resolutions in October and we call it business planning. And we come up with this great elaborate plan of what our goals are, how many transactions we want to do. Maybe some of us clarify that to say how many people we want to help. Maybe how much sales volume we want to do, if we want to be an award winner at conference, right? There's all sorts of things that we set. Maybe you have a recruitment goal if you're a manager or an owner. But we do our planning early, which, just as a quick shout out, Jim Fischetti is doing his business planning, I think on the 21st. If you're not registered for that, make sure that you do get registered. It is a great class, and he definitely focuses on the actual systems and implementation side of things. But who has a goal that they kind of have working in the back of their mind that they know that 2025, that's something you want to do? Who wants to share? Anybody?
My goal is to get people to ask some more questions in this focus group.
I won't move on until somebody shares. So that's a good way to do it, because this will be really awkward.
I'll share. We have a goal to, or I myself, as part of the leadership team, have a goal to recruit at least 6 new agents next year.
Awesome. Very cool. Anybody else? Can I get one more? No? Okay, we'll move on. So I think goals are really important. I'm a big believer in goal setting. However, there is a little bit of a problem with goals. And, you know, we obviously see Olympians who end up on the podium, or fellow next homies who end up on stage and they share their story about their success with recruiting or building a business by working their sphere and hosting client events. You know, we see these successes, and we see the results. And obviously, we know they at some point set a goal to do that, right? You don't accidentally become a top producer in real estate. We know it's a lot of hard work. You don't accidentally become an Olympian. You don't accidentally write a book, right? These things take time and they take hard work. But the problem with it is sometimes you go to events where there's motivational speakers and they're like, you just need to set the goal. The problem with that is a lot of people set that same goal and they didn't end up on the podium. They did not end up on stage. They did not end up writing the book. They did not end up selling the 20 houses or whatever it was that they set out to achieve. So what you don't see on the podium is everybody else that had the exact same goal. And with goal setting, there's also the problem that it can stagnate your happiness, because if your goal, let's say my goal is to recruit 6 agents next year, every day that I haven't recruited those 6 agents, I'm going to be mad at myself and frustrated by that process and feel like a failure, when in reality, that might not actually be the case. And so goals are fantastic for setting a direction, but when we rely on them solely for determining whether we're making progress or not, it can get really tricky and it can get a little bit scary up here, right? All the negative self-talk. So I do believe in setting big goals and having big plans, thinking big. But at the end of the day, I know the plan to get there matters a lot more. So this is one of my favorite quotes from the entire book. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So no matter how big you think, unless you have a plan to back it up, it is just a wish, right? We all know that. Unless there is a plan in place, it's not gonna happen. So people say, shoot for the moon, you'll land on the stars, right? We've all heard it a million times. But if I go out into my front yard and I jump as high as I can 1,000 times, I am never going to make it to the moon. To get to a moon, I'm going to need a rocket ship, right? I myself cannot get there just like trying to jump in the air. I might get like 2 feet off the ground if we're being really generous. But in this case, for us with our business, for our life, the rocket ship is your daily habits and your systems that are in place. And you have to build that before you get to go to the moon or wherever it is that you want to go. So again, not all of us necessarily want to go sell 50 houses a year. For some of us, that is not in alignment with our lifestyle goals. We're like, that is too much. I would rather be here where I have a better work-life balance. And for some of us, we're like, that's not enough. I want to do more than that. Whatever your goal is, that's fine. Wherever you want to go, that's fine. But you do need to have a vehicle to get there. And so we're going to talk about how to build some habits that serve you in that pursuit. Okay. So your current habits are perfectly designed to give you your current results. This one was a wake-up call for me when I first read it, because I think the first time I read this, I was very frustrated with where I was at financially, where I was at with, like my social life, even things like that. But the problem with this, though, is you can look back and go, okay, well, whatever I've been doing is what led me to this moment that I'm in right now. So depending on when the last time you had a closing was, whatever you have pending right now, or whatever you have in your pipeline, however many people have said, I want to work with you at some point, and in the next 30 to 90 days, maybe you'll help them, or maybe it's further in the future, right? However much money you have in your bank account, that's a lagging indicator of the financial choices that were made, probably anywhere from 30 days to 6 months beforehand, or maybe even longer than that. And I think sometimes when we think we should be at a different spot, it causes this conflict within ourselves that can be really frustrating. And so that's where the identity-based portion of the habits really come into play here for us. Because every time you make a choice, you're essentially saying, this is the kind of person that I want to be. This is, how I want to embody my morals, my values, the things that are important to me. And so I don't know about you guys, but I am the kind of person who I want to do everything at once. I'm willing to work extremely hard to do it, but I want it to be done overnight. And I want it to be perfect the first time. Okay. Does anybody relate to that? Yeah. Yeah. It's hard being that way. I know, because that's exactly how I am. But I think if we're, there's 2 ways we can look at this, right? We can look at it from the negative of maybe the things that we're not doing what we're supposed to do. But I think this is also important to take a moment to reflect on what are the good things that are happening in your life right now, where you can identify that's happening because of X, Y, and Z. So if you have great personal relationships, it's probably because you've made choices to invest in those relationships and show up for your partner, or show up for your kids, or whoever it might be in your life, your friends. Maybe it's a coworker, right? Like if you have great relationships, there's probably a reason for that. So this is important on both ends of the spectrum for the things that you want in your life and the things that you currently have as well. That vote every single time just continues to reaffirm that identity and that belief in yourself, okay? So I think that's super important to remember. It's hard to ignore the evidence. So fully transparent, fully honest moment. This is what my room looked like until I was probably 22. Maybe sans like the kids' toys. I was a literal walking disaster constantly. And I told myself all the time, I'm just a messy person. That was part of my identity. I believed that I was a messy person. And if I'm being honest, this picture is probably like a very generous version of what my actual room looked like. My mom is not on the call today, but if she were, she'd probably say mine was worse. And now, as an adult, right, I grew up, and I honestly lied to myself into believing that I am a clean and organized person. And now my home looks clean and peaceful most of the time, because the more I told myself I'm an organized person, I stay on top of things, I don't let things get behind, even when it wasn't true. When that contradicted with my environment, it automatically made me want to fix it. Whereas when I said, I'm just a messy person, it's just how I am, it's in my nature, I have ADHD, I can't help it, I would look at it and go, well, that's just the way it is. I'm just not an organized person. And of course, this translated into my business as well, right? Most things, I think how we are at home can often show up in our business. And I had a hard time staying organized. I missed deadlines sometimes. And that was not what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be known for. The very first time I heard, I think it was Brian Buffini, he had said that when you are late, it's not that you are a late person, you are an at-risk credibility person. And that permanently stuck with me, where I was like, I don't ever want anyone to ever feel that I am not reliable or that I don't do what I say I'm going to do. And so part of my identity-based habits became, I'm going to follow through and do what I say I'm going to do. And so when you tell yourself you're an organized person, you do what organized people do. So this is kind of the moment where I wanted to give everyone permission, where it is okay to lie to yourself and others in the pursuit of becoming the person that you want to be. Even if you know it's not true, even if you know you are not somebody that naturally picks up the phone and makes a ton of calls to your past clients and sphere, it's okay to lie to yourself and say, yeah, I stay in great contact with my sphere. Because the more times you say it, the more likely you are to go do it. That's just how we work. It's just how we're wired, okay? So I didn't ask at the start of this, how many people have read the book, Atomic Habits? Do we have readers? Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. This chart kind of encompasses everything that we just talked about, where when you start making changes, you want to see the progress happen overnight. And it can be really frustrating when it doesn't. And so James Clear calls that the valley of disappointment. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think that it should happen like this. I think it should be like more of a 45-degree, maybe even steeper than that, right? Like I want to see progress same day. Okay. I'm an incredibly impatient person by nature, and I have to force myself to slow down and be patient with myself and with others, quite frankly. So there is this window where we think nothing is happening because the progress isn't happening as quickly as we would have liked. If you call one past client, you're probably not going to have 2 closings the next week. Realistically, if you host one client event, you're probably not going to automatically have 3 months of living expenses saved in your bank account, right? There's a delay, but it doesn't mean that progress isn't happening. And so I printed this out and put this on my refrigerator for a long time. And it has really helped me stay focused and understand that sometimes things just simply do take time. It is a lagging indicator, okay? These things don't happen overnight. And it's called the valley of disappointment for a reason, because it's natural to be disappointed when you are putting in effort and you are not seeing the results right away. But not seeing the results right away does not mean that progress and growth is not happening. That's a lie that we tell ourselves. And that's one of the bad lies that we want to avoid whenever possible. Another big important quote from the book, success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. Who here has had the week where you decide I'm going to work like 100 hours and I'm going to get my business together and then everything will be perfect from then on, right? I think that's like a universal realtor experience probably. Where we decide we're going to go all in. I mean, we are going to be on the phone. We are going to do our marketing. We're going to do open houses and everything. But the problem with that is it's really not sustainable. It's what we do every day that counts. And that's what ultimately leads to like the culmination of our life's work, essentially, is what we do every day. So this equation is what I have on my refrigerator now, which is growth plus time equals production, and production plus time equals profit. So I believe most of us are not in the business as a nonprofit. I think most of us do this for our livelihood and for our future, right? It's okay that we want to make money while helping people do something really important, like buy or sell their home. But this equation keeps me grounded in the moment to remind myself that while I'm growing and I'm putting an effort, and while my agents are growing and they are putting an effort to their business, sometimes I hear about, they went on so many showings, and I saw they were making phone calls, and I saw they were sending out their newsletter to their database, and I see the work that they're doing. And sometimes even I am like, well, where are the contracts? Where's the results? Why aren't we seeing the production on my reports when I print them out every month? But the reality is it takes the time. Real estate is on probably a 60 to 120 day cycle. So the work that you do really doesn't show up for 90, 120 days. So whatever you have under contract or closing this month, whatever recently closed, or whoever you have a buyer broker agreement with right now, that's likely the work of what you did 3 to 6 months ago, potentially. It's not what you did yesterday. It's what you did 4 months ago. And an example that I used with my agents during the meeting we had was, if you go to the dentist and I tell you, hey, you need to do a better job brushing your teeth, which do you think would be more effective? Brushing your teeth for 6 hours straight the day of the appointment, or just doing 2 minutes every single day? Because the time works out the exact same, but some things have to be habitual. Some things cannot be avoided and done all at once. And this is a conversation that I've had with an agent recently. We do online leads. I know a lot of people don't. They're not super popular within Next Home, and that's cool. But we do them, and because some of our people don't have a huge database to work. And so, this agent has a tendency to make 4 hours of phone calls back to back, which sounds exhausting, rather than 30 to 45 minutes every single day, and really nurturing those relationships and getting to know those people, and building up to it. They have a tendency to want to do it all at once. And then the results don't really show up from that, though, because those people haven't been seeing their name consistently. They haven't established the relationship, right? These are people coming to a website that's brand new to them. And for you guys, if you only work your sphere, we all have those outliers in our sphere, right? Where we're like, I know them, they know me, but maybe you're not super close. Those people might need a lot more nurturing, and it might take more time and more instances and repetitions of making those connections throughout the time of your relationship, right? So there's a couple different types of habits. There's the ones that give us immediate benefits and delayed sacrifice. That'd be stuff like smoking. Immediate sacrifice, delayed benefits. Depending on how you look at it, if you don't like exercising, that can be one of them. For me, that's an immediate benefit and a delayed benefit. I love working out. It is a perspective thing for a lot of these. You can throw a twist on just about anything and say that there's an immediate benefit or say there's an immediate sacrifice. Some of that is your mentality and your outlook on whether you tend to view things super positively or kind of negatively, but some of them are a little bit more factual. And then immediate benefits and delayed benefits, for me, that's like brushing my teeth. I don't want to have nasty breath, right? Like I like the flavor of mint, so I'm going to do it. And then when I go to the dentist, they're not like mad at me because I have all sorts of problems in my mouth, right? Like it's just an easy thing that I actually enjoy doing presently and in the future as well. So it's kind of figuring out how to combat the desire for the immediate benefits versus how much of the delayed sacrifice are we really willing to deal with, and how much of it do we want to put away, and not have to face the consequences of, really. So there's 4 laws for changing a habit. The first one is to make it obvious. And this is for habits that you want to have. Okay. So for example, your phone does a great job at making it very obvious. And you'll notice I do not have any notifications on my phone, which is because my phone is in airplane mode right now. I do not keep my phone on when I am with clients, when I'm with my agents, when I'm doing presentations. It automatically goes on do not disturb or airplane mode. And I also have all of my apps set where I don't get Instagram notifications. I don't get Facebook notifications. You can, there are certain like ad blocker websites. So if you allow certain things to be obvious, that will be the choice that you make. If you get an Instagram notification, you are more likely to go spend 30, 45, 60 minutes on Instagram when you had no intention of going on there. You're not approaching it with that intentionality. You're just going on there because like so-and-so liked your picture and you're like, okay, well, let me go see what everybody else is doing, right? Rather than, oh, I want to make sure I, set aside 20 minutes to go engage with everybody on Facebook and Instagram or wherever, okay? So another way you can make it obvious is by setting an implementation intention. I will do X behavior at X time in X location. Okay, so for me, one of mine is I will open my laptop and pull up SkySlope, which is where we store all of our documents, at whatever time I arrive to the office, right? It doesn't have to be 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever, you don't have to set that specific time. It can kind of be a when sort of situation. So when I show up at my desk, and the location is my desk. So does anybody have a habit that they would be willing to share that they are trying to build, that they know would help them achieve their goal and they're having a hard time doing it? Does anybody have anything that they want to share?
Sure. Hey there, it's me. So I wake up, like I was up at 4 this morning, but we have a lot going on here. But normally I'm up at 5 every day, even on the weekends. And I have like a bad habit of getting my coffee, looking at social media, being on social media, posting, and not getting into where we are now, the office. So the behavior that I would like to change is getting my butt out of where I am, looking at social media, coming into the office. So I will come in the office at 6 a.m. and the location is the office, in our house. So those are things that I'd really like to implement, because it would definitely, I'm certainly maybe not going to text somebody at that hour at 5 a.m., although I have, but I think it would force me to, I'm very productive in the morning. I'm not a night person. And, like Chuck is more of a night person. Like he'll come into the office in the evening and my brain doesn't work that way. So this is really, I like this implementation intention because it really puts it in focus for me about what I really need to do.
Absolutely. And I think for, wanting to maybe avoid social media until you get where you need to be, sometimes the rule you have to create for yourself is it's okay to go on social media. Like I am not ever going to tell somebody like you cannot do things you enjoy, right? But maybe the rule is I don't do that until I'm making my coffee at the office, not my coffee at home. Right. So maybe it's, I get to the office, I don't know how many cups of coffee you drink, but I probably have like 8. So for me, it's easy to tag that on with things. But sometimes that's a common one. I don't get to do the thing I want to do until I arrive at the office. and take the 15 minutes to connect with people. So I will check my social media or when I get to the office at my desk after I pour my cup of coffee or something. So sometimes you can use this to build the new habit. You can also use it to control the habit that you have currently and just put some boundaries in place for the habit. So does anybody else have anything that they want to start doing, not really for how to make it happen?
I do want to say I like the fact that you said create a rule.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. I did not think of it that way, but if I create a rule for myself, the rule is going to be, I will, do social media at 9 a.m. for 15 minutes, at my desk. And then that's it. Even set a timer maybe. And I do like that about creating a rule. I've never thought about doing that.
I like that idea too, because I need to make my KV Core people calls or my soul.com people calls. And I'm so tired of being rejected that I'm not doing it. So if I create a rule like this, I think I stand a better chance of making myself do it, as kind of silly as that seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just put in my calendar today about the different types of posts because I don't buy my leads. And moving from Louisiana, all my sphere of influence is in Louisiana. We moved to Mississippi 2 years ago. And in the beginning, I had gotten leads from Brittany and Andrew, but I've decided to do it on my own. And because for 9 years, I've been fed leads and I've never really learned how to get out there and hustle and get it myself. I was always given to me. So I decided that I was going to challenge myself to work harder to get those leads myself. And I feel like, it might be, I don't know. So I'm using social media because I heard that is a good platform to do it on. So every day I have a different type of post, whether it's branding, a type of marketing, one video. That's a thing I've got to get used to because I'm not used to making videos. So I'm working on it, but I know that with time and consistency, I'll get there. I'll get used to it.
I love that.
I did like what Nate wrote. If you want to scroll back up, please, so I can just quote. So Nathan wrote that he told James Dwiggins a few years back that he would be a main stage speaker at conference, and the plan that was put into play has almost helped me reach that goal. So when Chuck and I were in Charlotte, we did see Nathan White do his speech. We were right up front, and it was interesting because we met him the night before. And I'm going to tell a little story here, Nathan, about, that he was getting like a little nervous. And so I said, what are you nervous about? I said, you're amongst friends. And so when you look out into the audience, I mean, he saw us, but there's like all your friends there, so that I think that he told us that helped him. So, you just never know, like his plan is to get to the main stage at conference. And that is such a fabulous goal. And if you don't know Nathan's story, it's just really, it's very touching. And we were crying in Charlotte when he was telling his story. So I think I love that he wrote, the implementation intention is I will be speaking on main stage at whatever conference it's going to be, it doesn't matter about the time, but it's just, I love that he's doing that.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So Caitlyn,
yeah, and I think it's important.
A couple other comments here. One person was saying one thing that I think we all struggle with, which is Lynn was talking about consistently posting marketing materials on social media,
Mhm.
making their calls. And Jessica kind of followed that up too with and some of that negative self-talk that people don't really want to hear from me, and letting that be an excuse to not do it.
Yeah, we do a really good job at giving ourselves reasons not to do the things that would ultimately build the life that we want, right, and give us the results that we want, and help us achieve the goal. That we do a fantastic job as human beings of coming up with all of the reasons why we shouldn't do those things. And the more times we tell ourselves that story, the more it becomes true. And it goes both ways, right? Like, I'm going to be a main stage speaker. If that is a daily affirmation for you, if it is an identity based thing that you have, every day you kind of wake up, if you know you're going to be a main stage speaker someday, you kind of know you got to act like one, right? On a daily basis. And it adds that pressure to yourself in a way that it's not like you need to go get it together, but it's like, okay, well, what would a main stage speaker probably do every day, when it comes to their business and to their life? It's probably not avoiding their response in the things that they need to do to get there, right? And to build that business. So that identity can really be like a kind and loving nudge to yourself. One thing that I use, so I lend, if I really don't feel like doing what I am supposed to do, I will ask myself, well, what would Jim Fischetti think if he could see my work day? What would he think if he followed me around for, whatever day, if I'm, avoiding what I'm supposed to do? I think about that probably 4 days a week, quite honestly. Because Jim knows what my goals are. I've been with him about what I want to do. He knows I have goals. He knows Susie has really big goals. Susie's my mom. We're a team. And he knows what I want to do. And some days, if he could see what I am doing, I know those things are so completely not in alignment that it gets me right back on track. And it keeps, me present and knowing, like, I've told him what I want to do, and I know I'm the kind of person that can go do that thing. So I need to act like it every day, and it keeps me focused. It keeps me grounded. It does not make it so that I never miss a day or that I'm perfect every day, but I'm a lot more mindful of it when I have that little reminder. And for anybody that you look up to, any role model, or like your children, kids are fantastic accountability partners, if you have them, or a business partner, somebody in your office. Right? But one of the methods that you can use when you are trying to implement a new habit is by stacking it onto something that you do every day. So for me, the story that I told myself for a lot of years is that mornings are really hard for me and that I don't like getting up early, which is funny because in college I used to wake up at 4 a.m. every day and I was a rower. So I know that I can do it. I just, created the story that mornings were hard and I didn't enjoy them. But now when my alarm goes off, I immediately turn on music. And when I turn on music, I usually am in a better mood and I'm more likely to get up and get out of bed and then get my day started. Right. When I mentioned earlier, when I open my laptop, I automatically open up the paperwork so that I never get too far behind on that. And then I'm also involved in my agent's transactions. I know if they just wrote a new contract. And then one of the things I'm working on is giving recognition more often. So I see a new contract and I text them and I say, hey, great job. I saw your contract. That's awesome. I know you've been working with that client for a long time. Congrats on getting them on contract, right? It allows me to be more involved. It's important to me, but it's the first thing I do when I open up my laptop. That is the cue. Laptop is something I do every single day when I get to the office. And I know the first thing I have to do before anything else is check contracts. Okay. for, pouring your cup of coffee earlier at the office or at home, whatever it might be. You can stack something onto that. For me, I love shopping. And the problem with loving shopping is then your house gets full of a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And so I love going to thrift stores. And the thing with thrift stores is you never know what you're going to find. And so I have a rule that before I go to the thrift store, which is something I do very frequently, I have to pick at least one thing that I'm going to put through the donation bin before I'm allowed to go inside. And so I have a tendency at home to, make sure I have stuff to take to the thrift store so that I can go shopping because I really want to. And I don't want to have a ton of possessions to manage and worry about at home, right? My cat's water bowl was for some reason really hard for me to change out every day. And I'm like, okay, well, every time I see my cat and give my cat food, I'm just going to give her a new bowl of water. Like I'm just going to attach it to something I'm already doing that's related to her. Like buckling your seatbelt. Maybe you take a couple deep breaths if that's what you do when you get in the car every single time, right? The idea is just to pick something that you already do on a either daily basis or like multiple times a day, or just something that happens very frequently. And then it's your cue that happens, you're going to do that. Like for me, when I get to a red light, I take 3 deep breaths because I got road rage. And if I don't, I'm not a pleasant driver. And I don't want to be that person. I think those people are awful and I don't want to be that way. And I hit a lot of red lights getting to work, going to see my friends, just driving around town. And so it forces me to regularly have a very brief, very easy little moment, right? So you can pick the things that happen to you, every day or that you do every day to stack something else onto it. It's just one of the ways that you can make it obvious to add something into your routine. The second law is to make it attractive. So the reason I have a group of people here is humans are very social creatures. Even those of us that are introverted, we still do rely on socialization for survival and all sorts of things in our DNA. And so by nature, we tend to imitate the people that are very close to us, friends, family, coworkers that are in the office next door. B, the masses, just like most people do. We tend to also do that thing. And then C, the powerful. So that super successful people and we go and try to imitate them, right? And so there's also an element of social pressure with that. So most of my friends also like to work out. So as a result, it's normal. It's the normal expected habit and behavior in my friend group that we do active stuff together. We joined a rec soccer team, even though none of us have ever played soccer before, right? Because we all like to play sports. If you go to a gym where people lift weights, you are probably also more likely to go lift weights versus if you join a gym that doesn't really have a big weightlifting section, it can be kind of intimidating to go in there, right? We want to be part of the norm. Even those of us that are very unique and we want to stand out, we do to a certain degree also like to blend in sometimes. And so having that social element of it can be super helpful. And so as far as making it attractive, when I think about saving money, sometimes it feels like sacrifice, like, oh, I don't get to go shopping this week. But I know that if I save money in the future, I might be able to make a bigger purchase that I'm more excited about than maybe I would be about a pair of shoes or something like that, right? You have to reframe it to think, well, I'm saving for something bigger and more exciting, and just reframing the enthusiasm around that. For if you want to read more books, which I'm not going to tell you whether you need to read, nonfiction. If you just want to read more books in general, whether it's for self-improvement or pleasure, whatever works. Having like a cozy reading corner or a place that is designed, with a nice reading lamp where the lighting is good and you can get comfortable and you have a place to set your drink and maybe you light a candle when you want to read. And there's like a ritual element to it for things that you enjoy doing. and that you know you're supposed to do. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's just hard to do, sometimes prioritize it. I love reading. And then sometimes life just gets in the way and I have a hard time doing it. And so that's when I make sure my environment is primed for reading to be the more exciting thing to do. And it keeps me on track with doing that. For eating healthier, you know, for me, like never going to be motivated by if a yogurt has less calories in it than a different one. Personally, don't really care about that. I do care about, you know, making sure that I'm getting like all my nutritional needs met and that I'm going to have energy and feel satisfied and all those sort of things. And so when I reframe eating healthy in that way, it's very motivating for me to make sure I meal prep and, you know, have healthier food on hand because I feel good. That's the attractive part about a diet for me is, you know, satisfaction and happiness, not like a number on a scale, right? And everybody's going to have their own thing that's important to them. The next thing is to make it easy, which I kind of jumped ahead and mentioned one, which is meal prep, right? It's a lot easier, that choice, when it's already kind of been made for you. Automating savings is a lot easier than get your paycheck and then going into it and saying, okay, well, how much do I want to save? If the decision is already made for you, then it's harder to go in and reverse that decision, right? So I have not transferred money to my savings account probably in 4 years. It does it automatically. Okay, I don't even look at it because I don't want to know. I like to pretend the money doesn't exist. For making it easy, have your CRM bookmarked on your webpage, right? Have your apps arranged in a way where the first thing you see is the thing that you're supposed to do. If you're reading a book, set it on your nightstand or wherever it is that you're gonna read. If you want to take stuff to a donation bin or you have stuff that you need to organize at your office, have a box that is labeled like this goes to donations or this needs to be dealt with. And you'll find that when you have a place for things like that and a system for dealing with that kind of stuff, you tend to do it more often because it's obvious and it's easy and it's right there. Like it's the harder choice would be to avoid it. And then make it satisfying. So one of the anecdotes in the book is that for every call that a salesperson made, they would move a paperclip from one jar to another. And I'm a visual person. I love little games like that. I love to gamify anything that I can. So having checklists, even if it's literally like, I don't know about you guys, but I will write down my to-do and sometimes cross it out, even though I've already done it. Yeah. There's a couple of us on that call. I can tell. Make it satisfying. Make it something that you enjoy doing. If you really want to go to the gym or you want to host the open house, but the only way you know you're going to do it is if you blast that all over social media to get the reward of everybody knowing that you did it. I don't care. Take a picture of your Fitbit or whatever it is. I mean, whatever you need to do to and motivate yourself to enjoy whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. It's fine. Like whatever method works for you. It's not silly. It's not ridiculous. It just works. And for me, a big one was I was a member of a gym that like wasn't really that clean, wasn't really that nice. And I didn't really like going there. It wasn't a satisfying experience. And then I joined the really bougie gym down the street that's literally a block away from my office. And I have found that since then, going there is super satisfying. They have a super fancy shampoo in the showers, right? Like they have the fancy equipment. I enjoy going there a lot more because it's a satisfying like place to be. So you might have to design your environment accordingly and kind of make those choices to make the thing you want to do the easy and obvious and attractive thing to do. Another thing from the book, it gives the example of an ice cube in a room where you start at 0 degrees and you move from 0 to 1 to 2, 15, 20, 30, right? The ice cube still has not, and for a lot of us, that's our daily habit, what we're doing, and we're not, seeing the progress and we're confused about that. But the reality is that that work was not wasted. It was just stored. And sometimes it just, you need an extra degree or two to get you to the melting point. And some of us give up at 31 degrees Fahrenheit, right? When we've put in a lot of time, energy, and effort, we haven't seen a single shred of evidence for a result, but we've put in all this work and we give up right before the ice cube is about to melt. So it's all about the process and not about the progress. Okay. We have to fall in love with boredom, essentially. And professionals stick to a schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. If you are not a big routine person, you can think about getting into a rhythm instead, because sometimes a routine feels a little daunting and a little bit rigid, whereas a rhythm is something that it ebbs and flows with the natural state of your business, especially in how often things change. It's really easy to get thrown off if you have a crazy day. But if you think about just being in a rhythm of the stuff that you do on a regular basis, sometimes that is a little bit more approachable for people. The only way to become excellent is by being endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over again. It's not glamorous. It's not like a super exciting thing. It's just how it goes. The word I often hear when people are talking about the habits is, I should do this. It should be easy to do this. It shouldn't be so hard for me to change or to stop doing this. I should be able to, make progress or growth on my own. But the reality is that shame does not serve us very well. If anything, it kind of keeps us in that cycle of constant dysfunction, and it doesn't allow us to break free of that and grow from that. It keeps us trapped. And so when you're talking about your habits, eliminate the word should and maybe just replace it with I want to, or I'm a person who does X, Y, and Z, and try to eliminate the shame element of it. And then this is my favorite. This is not from Atomic Habits. This is from somebody completely different. Remember that anything worth doing is worth doing half-assed. I am a complete and utter perfectionist, and this is the hardest thing for me to do. And I promise you, when you adopt this mentality, done is better than perfect. Okay? It just is. So even if you cannot go to the gym for an hour and do this complex workout or whatever, and, throw like a massive glamorous client party, but you can, invite people out for like a movie night, work up the tab or whatever, like done is better than perfect. It is okay if it's not exactly what you want it to be, because you have to give yourself permission to start to get anywhere. If we don't start, we don't get to the finish line. So sometimes showing up to the start line is the habit that we have to work on at the beginning, and then it compounds and we build from there. Sorry, I know I'm rushing. I just want to make sure we're able to finish on time for people. So there's a bunch of different strategies here. So this is where I wanted us to maybe talk about habits that you would like to implement, or maybe an identity that you want to embody and you're not quite sure how to do that. Who has something that they want to either add or eliminate to their life? And we can maybe talk about some of these strategies together. I know somebody's got something. You joined a class called Atomic Habits. Obviously, have habits that you would like to change.
I loved your environmental design. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I liked when you were talking about having like a book nook in the house, or, a place that you can do reading, because I do want to do more reading. And actually, Chuck just got me this. It's a magnifier with a mirror, because I bought a book recently and the printing was so tiny and my vision is so bad that I'm like, it was for a book club for women, and I just couldn't even read the book. So he finally got me something that would help me. But I like the idea of the environmental design, because to do your work. Right now my desk is pretty messy. Chuck's is not. So having your environment be a little more what's better for you is going to increase your productivity. And even just like you were talking about, just making a book nook or someplace with better lighting is really important. I really appreciate that. I like all these strategies. They're great. Do you have a favorite one?
I have a few. So habit stacking is like the most natural for me because it's the cue that I know is going to happen. Every day, just tack it on to something else that I'm already doing. I really do like temptation bundling or building. If I heard that one, figuring out my emails or like photos on my phone or something like that, and generally organizing my phone. I have a rule that I'm only allowed to get a pedicure if I sit there and work on those things while I'm sitting there. It's actually one of the examples from the book, and I read it and I was like, that's perfect. I will never get behind on organizing that again. I also really like commitment devices, which is like a social contract. I have an agent in my office who, for a couple months, we had a contract that said we would both be at the office at 9 a.m. And at 9 a.m., I would ask her if she's going to sit down to make her calls, and her answer would be yes. And then at 8 a.m., I would come check on her and she made. This agent, within a couple months, had like 4 extra contracts that they had gotten that came directly from that work. It's like a short-term thing going. But I really like commitment devices and like social contract people. That kind of accountability works really well for me. And I've been on the receiving end of the accountability many times as well. That one seems to work really well for me.
I also like the environmental, I'm sorry. I also like the environmental design thing because I'm trying to find my place. My husband and I are building a small house out here, and I'm living in a camper right now. So 40 minutes from the office. So I tried going to the office a couple of times a week, but that drive, I was like, I'm just going to the office just to have an atmosphere. I need to try to do something here too. So that's why I'm sitting on my porch, just trying to have a different atmosphere, and I might do something out here, maybe set up a table with a candle or something. I don't know, do something to make my porch more inviting, and it'll get me in a different space where I'm not feeling cooped up in a camper or seeing building stuff, inside. So yeah, I like that idea, trying to figure that out.
Awesome.
Wow, Caitlyn, this has been awesome today. We can't thank you enough for coming in here today.
Taking some notes.
Yeah, I kind of gauge it. My little litmus test is how much do I write down, and I wrote down a lot with you today. So this was really awesome. Thank you so much, and tell everybody where they can get hold of you and where they can refer business to you if they need someone out in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put my cell phone in the chat really quickly. And I'm in Richmond, Virginia. We do all of like Central Virginia. Basically, let me make sure I have this set to everybody. Or I can say it really quickly if people, there we go. Again, technology. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you are feeling. I hop on calls with people on a pretty regular basis. Feel free to reach out. We're all trying to figure out life together. So if you need an accountability or have like questions about anything, feel free. Send me an email or a text. Either one's fine. And I appreciate you guys being here today. And thank you, Pat and Chuck, for letting me hop on here. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It was really wonderful. Well, this is the Next Homie Focus group. We meet here every other Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you're not already on the Next Homie Focus group Facebook group, make sure, well, that's a tongue twister. Make sure that you join up so you'll get all the latest information and know about our upcoming events. So thank you again for coming. It's been really great. Everybody stay safe and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks everyone for showing up today. We appreciate it.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.